Welcome to the Pull the Chute podcast with Jeff and Jana. This is our weekly venture into the world of small to medium-sized businesses and the entrepreneurial spirit that drives success.
So our goal here is to help you grow and to be the best you can be, both in business and personally. To do that, we identify and we discuss topics that will hopefully help you as you work to build a successful business.
We also interview business owners and executives. It's our hope that you may be able to gain insight on ways to help you be a better leader and provide a better culture for your people.
Our mission here is to help you pull the chute once a week to work on your business instead of always working in your business.
So we hope you find these discussions insightful, helpful, and useful.
And thanks for your support. We hope you enjoy today's podcast.
Well, welcome everyone to the Pull the Chute podcast with Jeff and Jana. We are so excited that you are here today as always. Thank you so much for all the support you get and for all the great emails that we keep getting from people. We just love it. Just keep those coming, as we always say. But Jana, I'm excited for today. How are you doing, first of all?
I'm good. We had our tornadic activity. So
yes,
you guys don't know, we record these, several months before they drop. And last night was a big weather evening. So I haven't slept much because we had little alarms going off every hour. But other than that, I'm good.
Well, good.
Oh my goodness.
And I'm glad you're safe. So, Jana, we have Craig Taylor with us today. I'm very excited about Craig. He's into cybersecurity. He has a company called CyberHoot, and just really excited to talk to him. Craig, welcome to the show. Appreciate it.
Thanks so much for having me, Jeff. Jana, nice to be here.
Yes.
Right. So, Craig, what we always love to do for our guests is, instead of us introducing you, we like you to introduce yourself because you can do it way better than we ever could. So
Sure.
Tell our listeners a little bit about who you are and how you got to where you're at today.
Sure. So my background 30 plus years ago was in psychology. I graduated in Canada, I'm a transplant to the United States from Canada, had a psychology degree and decided I didn't want to go to the PhD route. I had enough of school, but I studied things like operant conditioning, how people learn, what makes them tick, what motivates people. And believe it or not, a lot of that translated into my career in cybersecurity. I've worked at multiple IT outsourcing firms, from international ones like Computer Sciences Corporation to small ones that supported 10 to 20 person businesses. And in between, worked at a bank and at Vistaprint, some other places like that. So I've been exposed to a lot of different cybersecurity programs, a lot of different risk tolerances and things of that nature. But along the way, I've learned a lot about myself, what I wanted to get out of life. And 10 years ago, I did exactly what this podcast is all about. I pulled the chute. I co-founded a company called CyberHoot that teaches cyber literacy. It married my love of teaching and education and my psychology background to cyber literacy and cybersecurity skill sets that everyone needs, but no one typically has. And so that's what we set out to accomplish, is to teach cyber literacy to 1 billion people. And we give CyberHoot away. If anyone wants, listening to this at the end of the podcast, says, oh, I'd like to learn a little bit about cyber myself, you can always go to cyberhoot.com/individuals for a free set of 6 videos. They're the 101 or foundation of cyber literacy, and a phishing exercise. It's not going to trick you. It's a positive reinforcement phishing tool that walks you through an email and asks you to learn the hallmarks or the rubric for how to decide if something is an attack or not, based on 6 or 7 puzzle pieces. We've had really good feedback that it's the first time people have taught me how to phish instead of feeding me a fake email to see if I click. And so the feedback on that has been amazing. And we can go into more on the positive and negative reinforcement schedule that underpins that stuff, if you like. But that's me in a nutshell.
That's really interesting. Oh my gosh, Craig, so I would imagine you're very busy right now. I mean, there's so much of it. It originally started in emails, phone calls, then emails, and now this cyber stuff with texting, where
Yes.
you literally don't, and how strongly identified these people are with the government, and like it looks like the Social Security, or it looks like the IRS, or it looks like they're just modeling these things more and more specifically and correctly. So what's the dealio? What do we do?
Well, that's a large question to answer.
Yes.
But if you were to ask me, what is, as a business owner, if you pulled the chute and you started your own business and you decided that you're going to try and make a go of it on your own, what are the 2 or 3 things as a business owner you should do? The first thing I would suggest is you educate your staff.
Mhm.
What we know from a longitudinal analysis by Verizon's data breach report, that's a report that comes out once a year, and it collects all of the breach information that's available, not just in the United States from the FBI or the CIA or any of these other law enforcement agencies, but also from Interpol and from our colleagues in Canada and
Mm.
Australia and all over the world. And they collect it all and then they do an analysis. What are the trends? What do we see? And they just did a regressional analysis for the past 20 years, about a year and a half ago. And they said in 2003, guess what? Phishing, in other words, social engineering delivered via email, trying to get you to click on something when you shouldn't, was the number one risk 22 years ago. And
Wow.
2 years ago, when they finished their analysis, they said the risk is the same. It's phishing, followed closely by password hygiene. So if you can only do one thing, you should adopt a tool like CyberHoot or equivalent. We're one of the few doing positive reinforcement and gamification that makes it fun and engaging, and people want to do their training exercises instead of clicking play on a video, getting a coffee, and coming back when it's over and not really learning a whole heck of a lot. You would do that first. Then the second thing might be to adopt a password manager, because again, the second largest risk companies face is password hygiene. And this has actually been corroborated by other studies that have just come out this year. And it's been this way for quite a long time. If you haven't adopted a password manager, I can promise you you're reusing passwords. I know for a fact.
Yeah.
It's not possible for the human brain to store more than 5 to 7 long password strings properly. And so you may say, oh, I have unique passwords, but they're predictable. You might use this root and this prefix at this website, and that prefix attaches to the website somehow. And so you know the next website, just put that prefix in and people will know. There's all kinds of rubrics I've heard about how people have. About the only one that is very inconvenient but somewhat secure would be to have a notebook that you lock up in a safe and you pull that out. And that really is so inconvenient as to not work. And from all the different cybersecurity research that I've read and the colleagues that I've talked to, the password is the lesser of all evils, right? It's not perfect. It's not ideal. You're putting a lot of eggs in one basket. But if you put a strong master password in, you enable multi-factor on it, that is where you get a second identification, something you know, something you are, or something you have. You can get into your master password, unlock it, and it does some wonderful, amazing things. For example, if you click on a link to Facebook because someone sent you a post and they wanted you to check it out, but it was a phishing attack, a hacker pretending to be your friend, your password manager won't log you into Facebook. It'll just sit there going, I don't know where I am. This isn't facebook.com. And it'll save you the trouble of being exposed or passing your password, username and password to the hacker's website. There are other things that it can do. It'll tell you when you're reusing passwords. This password I've seen over here and over here and over here. So you better
Oh, that's
change it.
funny. So what
Some of
is
the
Craig, password manager? Is it like, is it an app? Is it a, what is it? Like, what is the format? What's the platform?
It's an app.
App? Okay.
Yeah, they're plugins that sit in your browser, or they can be a desktop component. They sit on your phone as well. There's really a dichotomy between offline ones that are just sitting on your desktop and they don't synchronize to the cloud or any of your other devices. That's the most secure. Then there's ones that connect to the cloud and replicate your data from your browser on your work computer to your browser at home to your phone to any other computers. I tend to like those because they're adopted at a higher rate of there's better adoption. Users have less pushback because it's always the data is there when you need it, right? Otherwise it's, oh, I changed my password at work. Now I don't have it at home, and that doesn't work. So I like that. And there are different companies out there. There's probably 30 different password managers that I'm aware of. There's a few that I can recommend by name if that's allowed, because I've studied
Yes.
how they go about securing themselves. Well, one of the biggest risks is a password manager being breached. And we've seen it happen in a couple of cases with a couple of companies. I won't mention any names, but
Yeah.
I can tell you that 3 that I've looked at that have passed the mustard that I put out, we blog about this too. If you go to cyberhoot.com/blog and you search on the word last straw, you'll find an article that goes into how to choose a replacement password manager for the one that had the issue. And we looked at 1Password, Keeper, and Bitwarden. Those three have done an excellent job of asking other people, third parties, to come in and audit them from an architecture standpoint, from a secure coding standpoint, from an encryption standpoint, all of the different critical measures that one would hope to have in place for a piece of software this critical. Because we know, as I'm a security practitioner, I'm sure you might agree from a layperson's perspective that no software ever written is perfect. There will be bugs. But the more you can ask for third-party assistance to look at what you're doing, make sure it makes sense, make sure it passes the mustard, the better off everyone will be. And they've done a really good job of that. Others have not, and they're not as forthcoming. So that's the second thing in a long-winded story is train and govern your employees with, phishing simulations and awareness videos, but also to consider adopting technology like a password manager. That will help a lot to assuage the two biggest risks that companies face towards breaches and data theft.
You listed three, right? You said password, keeper.
Oh, the three different,
Yeah.
1Password is one
1Password.
company,
Mhm.
Password Keeper, and Bitwarden. Those are the three that we tend to like.
I just love the
Great,
name
thanks.
Bitwarden.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Yeah, thanks. You said them, and I just want to make sure our listeners hear because I missed, I was trying to write them down. I missed them myself. So I find it interesting because since we're on passwords, let's stay there for a second, just because I know a lot of people reuse passwords, do different things with passwords just because it's easier to remember. Like you said, we can only
Mhm.
remember 5 or 7, different types of passwords. And that's probably the biggest challenge. So what I'm hearing, I think what I'm hearing anyway, if you can clarify, is that a password manager, you have like basically one password that runs the manager, but the manager runs all your other passwords for you.
Exactly right. So when you go
Okay.
to log in, it looks at the web URL and it'll say, oh, I have this in my database. Let me put the username and password in for this. And so that gets you through that step. Now, there might be multi-factor tied to that. I would always recommend adopting multi-factor authentication. So you might have to pull out your phone to go into the Authenticator app that you previously registered to put in a second factor, the code on your phone. We don't really recommend text messaging, although, some banks still do it. You can get away with it, but if you have no other alternative, put that on. But truthfully, the best today is to adopt passkeys. This is a password replacement technology that creates a cryptographic authentication token between you and one website. So if that website is broken, the big problem with passwords and reusing them is that eventually some website will be breached and they will steal the password that they can read because it hasn't been properly hashed and encrypted. So it's visible to the naked eye. And then they'll say, oh, here's Jeff and here's his password. Where else might Jeff work? He might go to O365. Let me try to log in there. Or he might work, have Bank of whatever bank it is, and try to log in there. And they will go through a list of accounts. They don't actually manually do it. They have computer software written to go log into 1,000 different websites to see if one of them used the password and username that Jeff had in this breach. And then they'll iterate on that too. So if there's a prefix or a suffix on your password, they'll get to that eventually. So yes, that's a password manager in a nutshell. And I'll tell you, for those listeners out here who might be a little skeptical, I've convinced all manner of people, technical wizards and neophytes on computers, to use a password manager. They all go through the same arc of acceptance. In the first week or two, they curse me. They'll tell me straight up. I'll get texts at the middle of the night. I hate this password manager, Craig. What have you done to me? A week later or 2 weeks later, they'll say, I guess it's okay. I'm starting to make it work. I could see a little bit of the light at the end of the tunnel. And then a month later, they're like, I can't live without this thing. How did I survive my career in computing or in whatever business I was running without this? It's so much better, so much easier. Just to correct one thing you said, Jeff, you said people think it's easier to remember the same password, 4 or 5 passwords across multiple sites. It's really not that easy because they'll expire the password, or you forget which password you used of the three or four, and then you're constantly resetting passwords, waiting for the email to come. You forget, maybe that you put an email in that you've changed jobs and you get the email doesn't come anymore. There's all kinds of critical problems with doing it the old-fashioned way of trying to remember. So.
Yeah, I agree. And it's funny, we were talking about phishing a little bit too. I wanted to bring this up too, because I have 3 daughters, and computers were becoming more and more prevalent as they were growing up. They're in their 30s now, right? And antivirus software was the big thing. You got to have it in a computer, but it slowed the computer down so much too. That was a problem. So much like you were challenging, companies to teach their employees, I taught all of my family, if you don't recognize it, if you don't know it, don't click on it.
Yeah,
right. Let's do you know, in all of the, and I'm gonna say 20-ish years that we've been doing this, one time did we have a problem. Other than that, I just taught them, like, no, you don't click on it. If it looks funny, don't click on it. If you get an email that's not from somebody don't click on it. Right. And they've never had a problem over all these years. It's really funny. But the reason I want to tell you the story is because it works.
It does. So what is the process though, Craig? How easy is it? Like when you say password manager, so you basically upload this, you go to them and get all the information into this app. And then when they are changing passwords or they're creating passwords, how do they contact you, or do you know what that password is? I mean, or do you just have one password and you're pretty much up to the discretion of whatever they choose?
The adoption is actually more simple than that, Jana. You install this little extension in your browser. If it's Chrome, you get I run a 1Password extension in Chrome, and it will sit in the background. And the first time you go logging into a website, it doesn't know about it, but you're logging in the normal way that you do today. It will pop up a prompt saying, I see you're logging into facebook.com. Do you want me to remember this or memorize this? And it'll save it into its database. Okay. And then the next time you go there, it'll say, oh, before you type anything in, Jana, I have this. Let me stick it into those 2 fields and log you in for you. So you get like this positive reinforcement schedule, like, oh, when I actually authenticate one time, it's going to remember it the next time I come here and all subsequent times. So that's great. And then over time, there's an adoption period of 3 to 6 months of logging into all your different sites. And at some point, it'll say, okay, line in the sand. Now we're going to go look at all your passwords, and it'll start warning you. Jana, when you log into Facebook, I can see that you've used this password over here and over here and over here. You should go change them now. And so when you go to those websites to change it, it'll pop up another screen that says, do you want to use this random string of 17 characters? And you want to say yes. So you say yes, it'll pop that into the first field for password, the second field for password, and it will store it, knowing that you've now just updated your account password at Facebook, and so on, multiplied by, in my case, I have 400 or 500 different accounts all over the place.
Sure.
And it's really that simple. And then if you wanted to put it on your phone, you could go to the App Store or Google Play Store and you could download the app. You still have to plug in your username, password, and in some cases, there's a secret key, which is a very long text string that you do just one time to lock and unlock the database on your phone versus on your computer and all that. So yes, that's how it works. It's pretty straightforward once you get the hang of it. There's a couple little nuances, but they've largely ironed those out.
That's so fascinating. So tell us, now let's get into some dirt now. I know Jeff and I are, we gotta ask Craig these questions.
Sure.
What's like one of the most sort of elaborate, cyber anything that you have encountered? Like one of the most elaborate, I don't know, or one of the worst, let's say, situations in a business. You don't have to name names, but I mean.
No, I won't.
Yeah,
but
what do they do? Just for our listeners so they understand kind of the relevance of this,
Well, I would say that even this year, I've been my company has had to respond to 3 different wire fraud events where over $100,000 was made in payment from company A to company B, but it was sent to someone out on the internet because company B never got it, right? And what we determine in almost all these cases is there was a business email compromised, meaning a hacker got into one end of those transactions. The CFOs are on this side or that side, and was looking at the communications when they negotiated, oh, it's time for us to pay our bill. How much is the bill? It's this much, and we're going to send it where? Send it here. All of a sudden, the hacker sees that conversation and they get in the middle. They'll do things like register a lookalike domain name. So, for example, if there's Acme as one of the ends, they'll create an Acme with an S on the end of that, and they'll move the communication out of the person's email account that they were in illegally to that acmes.com, and no one else knows about it. Like, they're just saying, oh, our bank's no longer able to process our wires. You got to change the wiring instructions to go here instead. And suddenly the wire goes there. But how does that business email compromise happen? Well, that is where things get interesting. In the easiest case, it's the password was breached somewhere else and the person didn't have multi-factor on their email account. Hacker got right in. But one case recently was very interesting. This individual called me up in a panic. He just said to me, Craig, I just got a call from my bank. Someone tried to log into my bank account and move money. Fortunately, I had MFA or multi-factor authentication, prevented it. But the bank called me and said, we think someone's in your account, so we reset all your passwords. So no harm, no foul there. However, we teased out, how did this happen? And what happened was, about a week prior, this gentleman had started to receive hundreds and hundreds of newsletters and emails to his personal email account. And he's like, what the heck is going on here? I had never subscribed to any of these, and they're just flooding my inbox. I used to get 50 messages a day. Now I'm getting 200. So he dutifully started to unsubscribe with the little blue button. You know, you can go to the bottom of the emails, you see unsubscribe for me. And he was unsubscribing and confirming and unsubscribing and confirming. One of them was a booby trap. One of them led him through a hacker website that ultimately got him to the unsubscribed location. But in the process, it reached into his computer and it stole something called a session token. I'll explain it as simply as I can. It's this: once you've authenticated to your email, every time you open a new message, you're not being re-authenticated, but there's still new connections to the website where your email is and back down to your computer. And the way they manage that is through a session token that says, Craig has identified himself. He's authenticated. I'm going to give him this special token that's only good for 15 minutes. And if you put this in every communication request to open a new email, to set up a meeting, calendar meeting, or etc., the same thing happens with your bank. When you go to different pages on your bank, the session token says, yep, Craig's authenticated. Well, they reach in with this evil proxy. When you go through a hacker website doing malicious things, it reaches in and says, do you have any active sessions? Oh, cool. You have a bank one and you have an email one. Let me take those out and hand them over here to the hacker, who can use those to get right into the bank and into the email. And now they're in. Right? And from there, they can do all kinds of things like scan your entire inbox for interesting things: social security numbers, driver's license, identity theft information. They can reset your authentication measures so that if you catch them and log them out, they can get back in, right? There's all sorts of tricks to that too. And so this is how they got in, through this sort of kind of targeted attack by flooding his inbox with all these extra newsletters and things. So the advice that I gave him and give to anyone listening to this is, if you get subscribed to things that you didn't give permission to, you have a choice. You can try to unsubscribe, but that can be risky. You can also mark it spam. Just hit the spam button in your email client, and it will give that website a ding for not confirming that you wanted their newsletter. Like, the proper way for a newsletter to work is Jana subscribes. The website sends Jana a note. Hey, Jana, did you mean to subscribe to our newsletter? Because we got a request. We just want to make sure it's you and that this is legit. And you click a button and say yes, and then you start getting newsletters. If you just start getting newsletters because they're not sophisticated enough to do that, they don't deserve to be on the internet today, because it's highly inappropriate to do it that way. So the spam is a good way of knocking down their domain authority or their reputation, and it will prevent any new emails from coming into your inbox. And it will prevent anyone from maliciously putting a secret little evil proxy link into their unsubscribe button.
That is so interesting that all this goes on. I mean, this is kind of a stupid question, but truthfully, who would spend time doing this kind of stuff? I guess people to try to make money.
Well, let me put it into real terms that everyone listening to this would understand. What are the top three economies in the world? Can you name them?
Probably US, China,
That's
Russia.
exactly right. Nope. Cybercrime is the third largest economy in the world.
Really?
Generates
Oh,
more
wow.
income for hackers and malicious actors than the third largest economy of the world.
Wow.
So puts it into perspective. Why is it so large? Well, for 20 years, 30 years, it's been growing because hackers are making money doing it and they're hiring other hackers to help. And as word gets out, more and more people are jumping on the bandwagon, as unethical as it may be.
Just gonna say that's just like
So,
you're just taking
I
advantage
know.
of people to make money.
yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah. Well, there's a great movie that I kind of quasi wish was reality, but it's not. It's called The Beekeeper. Have you happened to seen that?
I've
I've heard
seen
of
it.
it.
I've seen
J-
about it, but I haven't seen it yet.
Jason Statham, and he, I won't spoil it. But I would suggest if you don't mind a lot of violence, then that's an okay movie to watch. But he goes after these miscreants in a very aggressive way.
Oh, how fun. I love Jason Bateman.
Yeah,
So yeah.
that's
And not
crazy.
Bateman, Stratham,
Stratham.
Oh,
Statham or
okay.
Statham. I
Stratham,
may
how do you
have the
say?
name
Yeah,
wrong.
Okay.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. And most of his movies are high energy, high violence kind of.
Yeah.
yes, yeah.
So that's cool. Well, Craig, thank you. We're gonna have to kind of let things roll here a little bit, but man, this was just so insightful and just,
Yes.
I mean, it's, and I know we touched the tip of the iceberg. I mean, we opened up with a big question. You answered two areas, and we kind of focused on there. But yeah, I think we'd love to have you back. So maybe we'll have to figure out when we can do that and just kind of dig a little deeper because I think this is an important topic that our listeners need to understand, need to learn more. I mean, the password manager is huge, and just being taught on things that if you don't know what it is, don't click on it. It's just
Right.
so crazy with all that stuff. One quick question I have, like, I know on your PCs it's a little more dangerous, but are they getting to the place where if you click on the wrong thing on your phones that it can do stuff as well now?
Yes, absolutely. It used to be this stuff of nation states and really targeted attacks on high value individuals or persons of interest. But now they're writing software to sell in the dark web that you can target a phone with. So yeah, there are things that can turn your microphone on, and you can, maybe not your camera. I'm not sure about that, but reality is there is malware on your phones now too, and
Mm-hmm.
you know, flash fast backwards for 20 years when we talked about antivirus. Now there's antivirus for your phone.
Yeah,
Wow.
crazy, crazy.
Mhm.
Hey, Craig, if people want to get a hold of you, how can they do that? I know we've mentioned the website once before, but
Yep.
give it to them
You
again.
can email if you're interested in learning more about CyberHoot, please email sales@cyberhoot.com. And that comes to me indirectly. And I would love to reach out and talk a little bit more about the positive, fun way we teach cyber literacy
That's great.
skills. It doesn't feel like work for most of the companies that adopt it.
That's awesome. And then if people want to get some of the tools that you offered for free, they go to cyberhoot.com/individuals.
Yes, you can register there and we'll send you 6 videos and one interactive phishing assignment that tries to teach you how to fish.
Awesome. Love it, love it, love it. Well, Craig, thanks again so much for being on the show. We really appreciate it. To all our listeners out there, this has been a very educational one. We hope that you've enjoyed this one. Let us know if you really enjoyed it. Let us know if we want to have Craig back. I know there's so much more information that he can be giving us. And sometimes what we don't know, we kind of say it doesn't hurt us, but in this case, it could really hurt us. So,
Yeah.
Yes,
make
very
sure that you're
true.
doing all the right things. So until the next time, folks, stay safe and be healthy.